was just like, wait, okay, let's say you've got chaos, yeah, and you now have order. Wasn't there somebody that now put these things in order?
Energy, good one.
Everything comes back to the idea that there is a creator.
Good one.
But she wasn't trying to hear that. I don't know, man.
Excellent work.
Oh my days. It was
excellent work.
It was long. It was so long. This was like a back and forth for like 3 hours.
Wow.
No, 3 hours.
Excellent
Is this a phone call?
You say, was this on a phone? This was on Instagram. Messages, voice notes.
Oh.
It wasn't even a phone call.
Excellent work.
Like, yeah, I'm not trying to explain that you don't need to see something. You don't need to hear something, which is what a lot of people think. You have to see something for that thing to exist.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to perceive something. Like, I was even trying to even go on like the whole like my personal level, because I feel like I've had my own experiences knowing that God is there. I'm just trying to even explain it through your own philosophy or through even science itself. But I don't know, man.
Science works a lot with the proof of God, yeah.
It does. I mean, one of the fundamentals is energy cannot be created or destroyed, which is why I don't understand why people can even like it shouldn't even be a topic. If that is your fundamental, yeah, how did everything come to be? And everything cannot just happen by chance. If that's the case, then I should be able to whiz an apple here right now into my hand and bite it.
It's a bit.
What you been up to today, man? Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I know you've probably been speaking about it longer than when I came back. No, but I was just saying it's a bit interesting because even though in terms of science, I'm not like a wizard or anything, but if you think about it from a common sense point of view, everything originates from something. So
yeah,
I think that's even self-explanatory, to be honest. I don't see how it works.
Self-explanatory. It's so funny. I was relating it to herself as well. She's a designer as well. I was like, okay, so you make all these custom jeans and everything. Cool. Can these jeans just customize themselves? Can you put the jeans there and all the utensils on the side, and then boom, something will just happen? No. Somebody needs to put these things together. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I tried.
I'm sure that was the final. You know what? That was the final straw. How can you say you that even designs?
Nah, but it's true though.
It's the truth.
It's true. But then she was saying that I'm not trying to I wasn't listening to what her points of view or I was saying. I was like, I am listening. Because I asked you now, give me an example, give me proof that God doesn't exist. And she said, you can't see him, you can't hear him, you can't do this. But I was like, you clearly just established that you don't need to see something or perceive something for it to be there. So
that's true.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Sorry, light work. Light work.
It wasn't light work. It wasn't light work. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't light work.
See, it tested your spirit.
It did. Do you know what? Yeah, it was just.
It's good.
I don't know. It was just
conversations like they solidify what you believe in as well. You need to confront it. A lot of people run away from it. Not saying you have to argue, but it's good.
It's true. It's true. Football was back on the weekend. Renee, did you watch any football?
Yawn. This is where I look out. When you guys are done, tag me back in.
Wait, hold on. You know when we did the thing with Reggie, you said you knew Edgar Davids. I forgot to ask you where.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did I? God, is that the time already? You know what, guys? It's been great
Was it
chatting to
Edson
you.
Davids or who was it? It was someone. She said
Great chatting
someone.
to you all. And
It was SCN, is it?
Oh wait,
no.
what is that? Sorry, I think the line is.
Oh my days. But you know, like you can name a footballer, innit?
Yeah,
You can. Exactly.
of course I can.
Easy. Go
You
on.
know,
My favorite is
just one.
Patrice Evra.
Evra. Jeez, I love this game.
He's my
come
favorite.
on,
I love him
man.
so much.
United.
He's
Love
funny.
this game. Yeah,
First time
amazing
you
guy,
support
man.
United
Cool guy.
is,
Wow. Who do you support again, Ellie?
of course, I support Arsenal.
Oh,
It makes sense. I share the surname with the great king, the King Henry. You know, the great king,
Mr. Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
the great king.
It was alright. It was alright. Decent
Right.
player.
I said he was alright.
Decent player.
Blasphemy.
He was okay. He was mediocre.
He was alright. Had a couple goals, but yeah, he was alright, man.
Wait, Renee, you didn't answer the question. How do you know Edgar Davids or whoever it was?
I really
was
can't
it?
remember.
You remember?
It was definitely
because
not
you
him.
were there. Yes, you remember.
Was it
I
Edgar
really don't.
Davids or
I'm
was it Reggie that was saying that he met Edgar Davids? I can't remember.
It was Reggie. It was definitely Reggie. Can't remember.
My memory is
You
good.
sure
You
you
know?
didn't type?
My memory is good.
When they typed in, football players.
Where?
Football players in Google.
Where? Guys, stop. Look, with the time already, you know what? Let's just call it a day right there, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Right there.
So what did you get up to on the weekend?
Me. What did I do? Oh, yeah, you told me there was
there a
football,
weekend?
So
Do you know what? There isn't weekend. There isn't a weekend.
Now, Renee, there's no weekend for you. Definitely not.
Oh yeah, there's no rest.
There's no weekend for you, definitely.
No, they say there's no rest for the weekend.
You could absolutely come back with the funny thing is I was literally reading the Bible today. I was reading Proverbs and it said hands that are quick to slumber.
Sorry.
Yeah. Those that are quick to slumber shall soon find poverty, so you should mind your business.
Me, I don't sleep. I don't even sleep.
Oh.
I don't.
Really?
I told you. Sleep at 4 a.m. Wake up at 9 a.m.
No, but you said you don't sleep. It's clear that you sleep. You sleep.
No, I don't. But if I do, it's for minimum hours.
Ellie, please, can you talk to your friends?
You know what's so ironic? Yeah, is I was on what's it? I'm just bait page or whatever, and there was a post about if you're up. Or I was up around 3 a.m. but it was obviously a few days before. But it said if you're up,
like this post.
Yeah, like I saw Shagan like it. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah. They said early bird catches the worm. What about if you were up?
There ain't no early bird. You was just up.
Exactly. Yeah. So before that early bird is up, I'm up. So Renee, what time are you waking up? You're waking up 4 o'clock tomorrow, whatever time you said, 4:30. I'll be up already. I'll already be up.
As in you've been up.
I've been up, you know? I've been up.
Some of us will be in 20th of May. You will still be in 19th.
Yeah, that's all right. Wow. It's actually 20th of May. Wow. Wait, what's the date today?
19th.
It's the 19th.
It's nearly halfway
May
through
just
the
flash
year.
by like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my. Wow.
It's a scandal. Before you know it, we're going to be in June, July, August, September.
Boy, time. Boy, it's time.
My gosh.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's so weird how you just lose track. Well, for me, I lose track of time.
Do you know?
I mean, since you're out here staying up till God knows when. Why wouldn't you lose track of time?
Now, do you know what? If I could, I always say this, if I could make one wish and wish that my body would not need to sleep, I would do it.
Yeah.
Because sleep is a waste
Yes,
of time.
amen.
It's a waste of
Amen.
time. It's a waste of time.
My wish is if I could elongate the days, I would sleep so much more. I love sleep. I enjoy it.
Nice.
Hey. But the thing is, how can you enjoy sleep? You're not even enjoying it.
What? Just because I wake up earlier than the rest of the population doesn't mean that. Listen, you don't think that after this I'm going straight to bed, as in out.
But
like,
let me ask you,
I'm done.
When's the last time you slept and just woke up naturally? Like woke up when you needed to wake up?
I wake up naturally at 5.
Jesus is Lord, save the woman anyway. Wow.
Imagine.
Wow. Naturally at 5. That's not normal. That's not
Crack
normal.
of dawn.
That is not normal. Dawn.
And what you're doing is normal. Staying up till 4 is normal.
The dawn is at 7 according to Ellie. That's what you were saying the other day.
Listen.
Do you know, I was even playing Monopoly the other day, and what time we finished them out like 4:15, 4:30, something like that. At the ready, that was dawn then.
I'm screaming.
And you were trying to say that dawn is after 6? Incredible.
Man, don't.
Incredible.
It takes the sun a while to reach Croydon.
Let's not talk about the last from last week and your examples, please. Let's not go back. Let's move forwards.
Yeah.
Oh, come and see philosopher. Let's move forward. Let's not go back.
Do you know what? That kind of ties
into
that kind of ties in. All what we've been discussing kind of ties into what I was gonna speak about today, or what I wanted us to chop up, and that's living for the present, living for the past, living for the future. I've heard a lot of people on like socials just saying, trying to just live for the present now. You know, like nothing is certain. I don't know. What's your guys' views on it? What's your views on that? Especially Renee.
Especially, yeah. What she's doing in the... It's cutting. There's a line down now,
yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear. Hello? Testing.
Oh, wow. It must be a Tottenham thing.
Wow. Wow. As if yourself is not in North London.
Nobody is safe, man. Nobody's safe.
It is well. Living in the past, living in the present, or living for the future. I'm going to be that annoying person that's like, surely you should be living through it all in a way. And I think we've got different camps, right? We've got people who are living in the present because it's like, oh, it's the new normal, and like, you know, we've just got to take every day as it comes, you know? Like, I don't know if you guys have heard that phrase. It's, I've got to take every day as it comes.
Take every day as it comes, yeah.
Take it easy, self-care. Yeah. And then you've got those people who are like obnoxiously living it for the present, right? They're like building for the future. Post-COVID, post-corona, I'm going to be ready. Opportunity. Yeah. I'm just like, to both of you, man, you need to chill. Because the people that are living in the present are pessimists, right? And extreme pessimism won't benefit you in any way, because you're literally just focusing so much on the short term that you don't realize that every single day in the short term is a step towards your future. And if you keep living for the present, then your present will actually never change into what you could aspire your future to be. And then my problem with the people that are like post-COVID, building is that many of them are overconfident in what they believe post-COVID will look like. Many people think that it will either look very similar to things that we've seen, or we'll go back to certain structures, or all that kind of stuff. And I think no one can really predict what post-COVID will look like. The only thing you can prepare for is change. You can't prepare for certainty. And I think too many people are focusing on preparing for certainty, that they're going to be extremely shocked when we come, like when we reach on the other side of this. So I think the name of the game is to have elements of both, right? Being able to take each day as it comes, but understanding that there will be a point where, at least for me personally, there will definitely be a point where we overcome this. Because I have faith in humanity, as terrible as we have been over billions of years. But history has shown, we've dealt with pandemics before, this isn't the worst one we've seen so far in history. It's not the worst one we've seen. And we have technology, expertise, and intelligence on our side. Yes, it's taken long, but I genuinely believe that there definitely will be a post-COVID. And we need to wait it out and have elements of both. But yeah, I'm hogging airtime, so would be keen to hear what, you know, if you guys resonate with that, what your thoughts are.
What about the people that are trying to relive the past?
Nah, y'all need to stop that. Y'all need to
some of these guys.
Stop that.
There's still some of these guys that I see that like 30 still trying to gangbang and, you know, relive the glory days.
Shagan, we're not going to talk about that one because that's even a separate topic. Predatory men are out anyways. That's a separate topic.
Might be interconnected a bit, maybe.
Living in the past, present, and future, and then you want to talk about predatory men. No, that one deserves that's a whole topic. Predatory men.
So wait, just to clarify, are you saying then that you should be living in the present, but obviously think about the future? Just to sum up.
Essentially, yeah. Because sometimes we think so hard about the future. And I think that this is a phenomenon that we see outside of the coronavirus. I think the coronavirus just has people thinking about these kind of things a lot more. But even outside of the coronavirus, you have people that are like, oh, I'm thinking about my future, to the point that they neglect their present. And to give an example of that, classic one is, you know, the young career guy who's got everything made and he's trying to like progress in his career so that he can afford to send his kids to school. But because he's focused on that so much, he's missing baseball games, he's missing basketball games, he's missing school plays, he's missing essential time with his kids to build that bond that at the point where you actually reach where you're able to give them back the capital and the resources that you had been spending so much time on, you don't even have a strong enough bond for them to actually feel as though you were a worthy parent when they needed you. And then you've got people that are living in the present, you know, like all of these, what do you call it? Instant gratifications, right? You've got people that are like, you know, I don't want to be in a committed relationship. I'm not looking to, and I have nothing against that. You know, people, if you want to be a bachelor or bachelorette for the rest of your life, that's absolutely your call and your prerogative by all means. That's not even a great example to use. But we've got people who are fulfilling themselves in instant gratification, like, you know, drugs and excessive drinking, and not really thinking about like what are the concrete steps that I can take to making myself a better person, or even exercise and nutrition, because that triggers a lot of people for some reason. I don't know why, but triggers a lot of people when you're like, oh, maybe you should actually think about your health, because a lot of people don't realize that your metabolism slows down as you get older. You're supposed to eat a lot less as you get older, and the less muscle mass that you do, like that you don't build now, when you get old, you're just going to heap on body fat. And I'm not gonna lie, that's even a phenomenon that we're seeing right now, where we're really in the coronavirus, people aren't moving as much as they were before, and you know, obesity is already a pandemic. Like that's even more of a pandemic at the moment. And if you're not thinking about the future, then it can cause you to indulge in instant gratification that will ultimately harm you in the long term.
But is there ever like examples of where it's not even possible to find a balance? Let's say like a startup, let's say like a tech startup company where you have to invest a lot of hours into like actually, you know, starting up the business. You are constantly thinking about working towards a future where your business would be, you know, sustainable, and your business will, it would be sustainable. That you're constantly working those mad hours that you cannot even live for the present right now. So you're not enjoying time as you would do if you didn't have so much focus on the future of your business. I'm just thinking, is there ever like a point where you can't even really find a balance? That you kind of have to choose one or the other?
I think
go for it, Ellie.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I was speaking to someone like about this topic. This was actually a few years ago, and he was saying that, you know, you can never really be balanced. You can only like try and, if I can say, balance out, and sometimes you'll be imbalanced. Yeah. So I don't know. I think, for example, someone in, in the scenario you mentioned, I think it's a bit of a risk at the same time. I think you have to kind of weigh it up because there are a lot of inspirational stories that people say, I sacrificed X, Y, and Z, and here I am today. Unfortunately, for example, relating it to family, um, they're kind of making up the time that they didn't. But then some people are unfortunate where they've put so many hours in, for example, a startup in the scenario you mentioned, and because they weren't necessarily really, they were more like balanced and focused on the future more than the present, they probably maybe lost somebody. Let's say even like with this pandemic right now, they lost someone right now. And so it's kind of a push and pull thing, if that makes sense. And yeah, with the decisions you make, I guess you just kind of, you have to obviously live with the consequences to an extent.
Interesting. Because I've just been thinking, like, with even aside from like the whole coronavirus stuff, like in recent years and recent months, there's been a lot of, celebrity deaths. Not that they are more important or more, more important than a normal person dying. But as a result of this, you see like quite a few people trying to be like, yeah, I'm living for the present now. That even this even brings me back to, I think it's a Drake bar. I'm living for the present because the future doesn't exist. I don't know how it came into my mind, but yeah, living for the present because the future. Living for the present because the future doesn't exist.
YOLO?
Something like that.
YOLO?
I don't think it was YOLO.
I'll leave that YOLO one alone.
Even YOLO,
please.
that's even that's
Leave that one alone.
You can even tie, but the thing is, you can even tie that into it as well. If you know that your future is uncertain and you only have one life, can you really, like, can you actually, should you actually focus on the future rather than focusing on what is right now?
I think it's a difficult one. Even the example that you used earlier, Shaken, because I've worked for startups and I currently have a startup, and I think it's one of those things where, as Ellie was touching on, it's there's trade-offs, right? There's an opportunity cost of you doing one thing over the other, right? And I think it very much depends on where you are and what you want in your life, like what purpose you believe your life has to fulfill, and what means more to you. And for someone like me, for example, I despise, well, I have problems with the idea that of, traditional society and the fact that we were basically chucked into higher education and then we have to find, a quote unquote good job where we sell our time until we're like 80 and then retire without actually enjoying things and having the freedom to do things that we want to do full time because we don't have the sufficient amount of capital to enable us to do that. So for me, I saw that as such an opportunity cost because I'm thinking in the present, I'm comfortable, but in the future, there's no movement or progression. I basically stagnate, at least in my opinion. So the choice to kind of go down the startup route is you suffer for a number of years. And the thing about startup cycles is they tend to be quite short, right? And even in the future, like even where we are right now in, pre-COVID, accessing things like funding and going through rounds of funding were actually quite quick and short. It's a couple of years and you're there, right? If your company survives. And I think the saying goes, if your company survives 3 years, then your company is like, it's still around, it's all right. So I think it's about principles and internal values that determine what means more to you. And then that then dictates how you spend your present and eventually your future. Because I just think even the distinction between the two is a false dichotomy to me, because every single thing that you do in the present is literally a step towards your future, whether you like it or not. What you do tomorrow, what you're even doing right now, will determine certain things in your future. And I think not enough people appreciate that to the point where it's either they don't appreciate it at all, or they appreciate it so much that they completely like they're just doing too much. Essentially, it's just excessive. So I think it's less so about balance and more so about principle and what means more to you when. Yeah.
I thought that was well explained. Wow. Can't help me right. Can't help me right down that last bit.
Shagan, was that a compliment?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. No, but I like that last sentence that you said. It makes sense. I never really thought about it like that. We kind of thought about it as like just, trying to find a balance. But in a situation where there isn't a balance, how do you go about it? I thought you kind of just hit the nail on the head with that last statement that you made.
But I do think
got me thinking.
Being present, if it came down to choosing, I personally think is most important. Even though obviously it does contribute to your future, as Renee mentioned, in terms of Shagan, you watched the Last Dance documentary. I don't know if you watched the last two.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Jordan says, someone like asked, "Oh, Jordan, why aren't you nervous about you possibly taking the last shot in the game, etc., etc.?" And he said, "Why would I be nervous before I even take the shot? Why would I be thinking about shot I haven't even taken yet?" So, and he was always like the shot, yeah. He was always present. That made him so grounded. And I think from there, then you can. It's like you find like a. What's that word? You find a balance. I'll probably know the word. Remember the word. You find a balance.
You found the balance, huh?
Where, bro, what's that word in economics, man?
Equilibrium.
That's the one. Yes. Yes. Find the right equilibrium. But so that you can kind of like you can scope the land, and then be able to not obviously forget about the past and the future, but you're at a point where you're very much level-headed, and it'll be very hard for you to be pulled in either direction. Because some people, on the other hand, are very much in the past as well at the same time. Probably judging that too.
Okay, let me throw you guys a question. Let's say you've got a task, you've got a challenge, you've got something that you aspire to do or something. What is your motivation? Is it reaching there, like getting to that goal, or like actually succeeding and actually finally reaching that goal, which is obviously going to be in the future, or completing the task presently that will enable you to eventually attain that goal? Don't know if you got what I was saying.
Basically, the process and the product. You mean?
Okay, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I think
do you look forward to the product, or are you more appreciating the steps that you need to take in the process?
Yeah. I think, again, it'll come down to people's priorities and what they think is important, like Renee said. But personally, for me, I would say definitely the process. Because in terms of, I don't know if I'm sure you guys have heard success is not a journey, wherever. There was always going to be like that next checkpoint, if that makes sense. It's like you're playing a video game and you think you're near the end, but you're not near the end. There's another chapter. Or you're reading a book and there's another chapter. There's just something else, and yeah, I just think, and I think it goes back again to my other point of being very much present all the time. I think that really holds more weight.
I think it's a tough one. Because I feel like you can't appreciate the process without having a product in mind, and you can't appreciate the product without the process. So what I mean by that is, when you're in the grind, aka the ghetto, the thing that's getting you through is the fact that at the end there's going to be something sweet, right? Like, the classic startup founder that's broke right now, but, the precipice of millions. It's the thought that this is going to succeed that's getting him through the days, or the person that's going at it on social media trying to get to, X amount of subscribers. They know that one day they're going to hit that milestone. But then I feel like once it's very difficult to be self-aware in the process, because often the process is illuminated once you have completed the task. So like, somebody that has, take for example, someone like, I don't know, a millionaire or billionaire, classic, like Bill Gates or whatever. A lot of the lessons that he's able to relay on in terms of like process is because he's actually got the product already. The product serves as that kind of validation. It serves as that the center in which all of his kind of like work centers around, essentially. So even thinking back to like moments in my life where I feel like I've achieved important things, I only appreciated the process once I'd had time to really like dig deep and think about like what the product or what the result of that did. So for example, like whilst I was studying my master's at Harvard, during the process, like I just wanted my degree. I was, do you know what I mean? Like I wanted my degree. I wasn't thinking about, do you know what? I wasn't writing my essays and thinking, do you know what? I've really been developing my problem solving skills here. I'm becoming a better writer. I just wanted to end the damn essay, like finish. That's all, submit. But it was only after I got my degree, I was holding the degree, I was like, do you know what? I've learned a lot. I could be the wistful Yoda. I could be the Obi-Wan Kenobi. I could be talking, process.
You know about Star Wars? We got Star Wars fans.
Wait. You know about Star Wars?
I know the references. Don't ask me any questions, please.
You've watched the films, though.
Please. Adjacent. I haven't finished it, I've only watched a bit, but I wasn't interested enough to finish it.
Disney Plus. I'll even give you my login just so you can.
You're really throwing curveballs at us, bro. First
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need to stop. Yeah. Just teasing, man.
Listen, I'm one of those people that you'll think that I know a lot of things, but I only know a little. See, this is the trick. You need to know a little about a lot of things, and people will think, "Oh, wow, you're really
when
interested." I'm like, no. It really depends. Like, what? Yeah, no, it really, really depends on how deep you go into the conversation with the person, though.
You just keep us arm's length, so that
arm's length, and I think you can. Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it really depends. And do you know what? This is so tangential, but like that's literally been my superpower, just like knowing little bits of random things about a lot of things. Because you get to talk to interesting people, and then when you talk to people that think when you talk to people that think you know a lot, you actually learn a lot more anyways, because they're an expert in their field. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Great stuff.
Interesting.
Play the game.
Interesting. I think even cut you off what you were saying before. How did the Star Wars reference?
What happened to that? But now I remember what I did this weekend. I actually made my I made a birthday cake and cupcakes, and you even know Jake because you were there to come and be a hater. Nonsense.
No, I complimented the cake.
Basically, you were the only one to hate, by the way. You were the only one to hate.
You responded to you.
I'm a real one. I'm not a yes man. I'm not a yes man.
Basically, Ellie, I made. I made cupcakes that were puff flavored.
Okay.
And they turned out beautiful. And he said, because I put puff on the top of the cupcakes, yeah, he was like, "This looks like meatballs." Like, who actually asked you?
I'll just say what I thought of it. How it looked. It looked like meatballs.
It didn't look like meatballs. Go to my baking highlights on my page and you'll find that it doesn't look like
I was confused. Okay, so I saw cupcakes.
Of course you'll be confused after eating all of that mangosteen.
But I was confused because I just saw something on top.
The mangosteen is going to your head.
At first, I was thinking, it might be a Ferrero Rocher, but
the mangosteen goes to your head, of course.
So I thought it was one of those meatballs. I don't know. Maybe it'll make work.
Where have you ever seen meatballs that color?
I don't know. Maybe
you don't even know.
I don't know.
There you go. You heard it, Ellie. You heard it.
You can color things. You can cook things in different ways.
Man said, "Oh, the cake looks aight." What kind of hating ass?
The cake. It did look aight. It was good. Is that the best cake you've made?
No.
See, so it's aight. I know you got high standards. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, you said this looks like meatballs.
Ask him again. Ask him again. Ask him again.
Like meatballs.
Bro.
Which meatballs have you? Ask him again.
Bro.
Ellie, have you seen meatballs?
Like it looked like meatballs.
Ask him again. Listen, ask your friend again.
Listen, it being meatballs is not even far fetched. What did you just create? You put puff on a cake. That's never been done before. So who used to say that you cannot? Who used to say that you cannot go and put meatballs on a cupcake?
To be fair, if you made a savory
one,
that could work.
I know you weren't doing that? Maybe
I
should even try it.
You knew that I wasn't going to do that, nor did I do that, because it literally says these are puff cupcakes.
Oh, I didn't see. I didn't read that bit. But hey, at least now you got an idea of it. Make a savory cupcake. Maybe put the meatball on top and then let it ooze out. Let red stew just ooze out of the center. You don't know.
I'm waiting for you to make that cake first. Send us the recipe.
Nah, I'm good. I'm not really a baker, like I say. I'm not really a baker.
Oh, you're more of a chef. We've heard you. We've heard.
Which is the more skillful, you know. What do you say?
You've been doing it, and you're doing it.
I've been doing this, and I'm also doing it present continuous.
It's screaming. Man, he's living in the present and in the future. Innovation right there.
I am.
You see, it all comes full circle. You know.
Yeah. Okay, if I was to ask you guys, if you had to advise someone concerning what we've been talking about, would you advise them to live in the present, live in the future, or kind of just, do you know what? I'm even thinking, even saying to kind of take it as it comes, or look towards the future, but still live presently. You are ultimately still kind of just living presently, if you get what I'm saying.
If you mean predominantly in terms of
you're living, you're still trying to live in the present.
I would say write down what your priorities are and work towards them. And if it is such that your priorities are more so in the present than in the future, you live more in the present. And if your priorities are more so in the future, then you live in the present working towards the future. And one thing that I would also say to that is, I don't think that these things should be life statements. I think they should be season statements. So what perhaps building for the future might work in one season, but then a couple months or even a couple years down the line, you can focus more on the present, or even vice versa. So I think people just need to be a lot more flexible in their thinking and a lot more okay with dealing with change and assuming different perspectives. Because I think even this, I don't know if you guys have been hearing the same words being thrown out everywhere, but it's an unprecedented season and this is the new normal.
I didn't hear that bit, but were you rapping or something?
Wow. You know, I actually moved my... No, I'm not gonna disgrace
Wait, you say you've been writing bars?
No. I'm not gonna disgrace my... No.
Is it Rennie Ma? I think that's
Rennie
Ma, yeah.
I really despise both of you. I hope you know.
Wow.
That's disgusting.
Rennie Ma. Hey.
No, I despise. Listen, this little nickname. I'm definitely not a rapper. I I can sing, but I ain't trying to be out here rapping.
Okay.
I ain't trying to be out here rapping. What about you guys? Any musical before we go back into the actual topic? Shaken, drop us something. Drop us something.
No, right now. No, right now, man.
You don't want to we wanted to be serenaded.
No, right now. It's too late. Too late.
Ellie's like, there. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
I actually can. I've been thinking I might even drop a couple tracks as well. Honestly, actually, man.
You drop it with Timmy, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I'm even going into music management as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. But yeah. Prioritize. It's all about priorities and being adaptable to change. Success is. I was literally writing something this morning, an article, and I was trying to define. I was basically saying tangential, but consistency doesn't mean success. And a lot of people think, to be successful, you just have to be consistent. But you can't just be consistent. You actually have to be good, and you also have to embrace change. And I think this applies to this, and this is where I'm going insofar as that a lot of us are not we're not progressing in our lives, and we're staying stagnant in a particular place because we're resistant to change, whether that be resistant in the sense that we're not embracing or
has temporarily went offline. She'll be back.
Sorry, I'm a popular lady. I'm a popular lady. I can't. I'm popular, man. I'm popular. I wish I could, I wish I could, but that was just. I'm a popular lady. I have many things to do, but alas.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think. Guys, you heard it here first. There's gonna come a time where. There's a time where you're gonna have to hit up several PAs before you speak. No, I'm trolling. I could never be like that.
Yeah, there's gonna be a time. Oh my days.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it's a question of priorities. It's a question of priorities and adapting to change.
If I was to give, I think I'm leaning more into being in the present. Obviously, not disregarding the future, but that's where everything, if I can say, that's the even playing field where you get to see, it's like the quarterback, in American football, he sees the whole field. So I think that is where you want to start. I think and even like you said, when it comes to switching up, maybe in a certain season, like right now, a lot of people are home, obviously, and most likely when there wasn't any lockdown, they're traveling, they're all about, and they're actually able to be with their families. Maybe the season for some people is stay in the present. But I think the present is always where you should start from, and go back to, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Definitely.
I heard that. You don't know where all of this stems from. So I was thinking, honestly, I've been running and I've kind of made it a more consistent thing in recent months. And I remember at first the idea of running certain long distances was just a bit mad. I think, wow, can I actually run over 10K? It's mad.
Mental.
But then I realized number one, it's something that you need to kind of work towards. Just slow steps. And even whilst I'm running as well, even now, because your body does become more tolerant to the longer distances, but mentally, I've kind of trained myself to not think I have to run, for example, I have to run 10K. It's more of a thing of, okay, let me just keep running. I'm running this 1K, let me get to 1K, let me get to 2K, rather than thinking, oh man, I have to run 10K. It's more like, okay, let me just focus on what I'm doing right now. Continue taking my steps, and eventually I'll actually reach that 10K.